Welcome to another episode of the Alphawaves podcast, your place for wellness and culture. I'm here with my brethren, my good friend Kam. How you doing today?
You're being so nice to me today, and I really love it, and I don't know how to respond to it.
Nah, what am I never nice?
No.
That's like...
Why don't you play back the episodes and then we'll...
That's so harsh. I thought I was nice this whole time.
No, you know what? I'm just having trouble receiving it, but thank you, my friend. I'm in a good mood.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Good enough mood.
I'm good, thanks for asking.
I was just about... I was still talking about me, but
I know I was trying to move it on from you because, you know...
Before I start talking about how I'm actually not good. You know me so well, that is what I was going to do. But yeah, how are you?
No, I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Good spirits.
Good.
Highly favoured.
Blessed and highly favoured. That is true. That is the vibe.
Yep.
I love that.
And here to deliver another episode for the people, you know.
Deliverance.
Got a job to do.
This is just so funny because it's making me think of the back of the last episode we did.
For what happened in that episode?
Oh, you're talking about God and your curiosity.
Oh, yeah.
But I love it. I love this peacefulness that you've brought with you today. It's inspiring.
Appreciate it. So what are we here to discuss today?
A few things.
Mm-hmm.
I believe you have a question for us.
I do.
After that, I'm going to deep dive into... I don't know how to summarize what we're talking about. I guess it's putting people on a pedestal and dimming your own light. And this kind of fixation that everyone seems to have with being an underdog and how it fits in with humility. And if that's actually beneficial, like why is a rise to power more easily acceptable than just someone starting that way?
Right. Interesting. Okay, so before we dive into that, I do have a question. But even before that, a little wellness tip.
Okay.
Do you have one?
No.
Okay, I do. Cool.
It wouldn't really be that great if you didn't have one lined up and you brought it up.
That would have been untold faith in you.
Right. I would think of one though, but go on.
So, it's one of two things. One wellness tip I would say is to try and read something new on a daily basis if possible. It doesn't have to be a big story. It doesn't have to be anything. Just try and read something new, because I don't know if it resonates with everybody, but I feel like once you read something new, it opens your mind in a different way for the day. Whether it's at the beginning of your day or the end of your day, whenever you can fit it in, middle of your day, however. I just feel like
at some point
during the day, try and read something new for roughly 5 to 10 minutes. I
love that so much. And when you say read something new, like what? Like a news story or
any medium that you prefer? Because I would say read a book, but some people don't like books. But you can read an article in a magazine. You can read anything.
A short story online, something a philosopher has said.
You can read somebody's interview, anything.
Yeah.
Like just 5 to 10 minutes of just reading takes you away from everything else. Like,
I really love that, honestly, because I saw someone else post their morning routine on Instagram and they said they read like, I think it's either one chapter or 10 minutes of each, like a non-fiction book, then a fiction book.
Okay.
And they said something similar, like it just opens their mind up for the day. I really, really love that. That's such a good wellness tip.
Yeah.
So have you been doing that, and how has it been for you?
I've been trying to do it. I'm not going to act like I've done it every single day.
But some days or most days it's better than no days.
Yeah, literally. Exactly. That's my sentiments. It's good because I just feel like even when you're speaking to people, whether it's the same day or the next day, depending on what part of the day you do it, it's like you've almost got something new to say if you do want to reference back to what you've been reading. Just vocabulary, everything. It's just
new thoughts in your mind.
Just new thoughts for yourself, yeah. More so than even sharing it with anyone. It's just within yourself, just new thoughts. So yeah, I'll definitely be trying to do more of it.
Me too. I've been wanting to like read on the train for a while, but just never done it.
I've not done that yet. I'll be honest.
It's a lot, like
It's a bit.
having to sit. You're like, I don't want anyone to know.
No, I just prefer. I'm just the headphones. Like I like to listen to stuff when I'm traveling. I don't know about sitting down and reading.
Or watch stuff. Like I just want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
And listen to my music and chill for a bit.
Yeah.
I feel like reading on the train can be so distracting because you just hear the train noises, and obviously it depends on if you find a seat, blah blah blah.
And I still like to be aware of what's going on around me. Like, what's the word? Visually aware.
Yeah.
If my head's down in a book, I don't know.
Yeah.
So.
No, I hear you. Same.
So yeah, definitely something I'd encourage people to do. Like I said, it doesn't have to be a book. It could be anything. Yeah. So
That's a really good tip.
wellness tip.
And I love this well-being journey that you've been on as well. You know, it seems to just be evolving.
Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
So like, obviously, it's all coincided with this podcast, right? But there's been elements of it that has surprised me, honestly, because sometimes I do know that I want to be this better person, yeah? And when I say better person, I don't mean like I've done bad things and now I want to be good. Like, I don't mean in that sense. I just mean the better version of myself, the best version of myself, like trying to push myself and understand what is good for me, what isn't good for me, could be different to what is good for you and what isn't good for you kind of thing, yeah? So it's just that whole journey of discovery. And I know I mentioned it last week, possibly, but I know I've definitely mentioned to you privately that like I'm really on this life is about discovery thing at the minute. Hopefully it lasts forever, but that's where my mind is at really at the moment. So it's just like discovering what is really good for you, what is...
I feel like you've always been that way, like very curious and discovery, but just not on this.
Yeah, not to the full extent, because I've let outside factors... Well, there was external factors and environments that wasn't allowing me to do that as much. Like I had to live a different type of lifestyle. But getting through that side to being where I am now, it's like I feel a freedom and an openness to just explore it further. And yeah, I don't know. It's not just all fitness based, because that is part of it as well.
Yeah.
But it's just more internally feeling like I'm getting to discover myself even more by going down this wellness journey. I think more people should do it and will do it in their own timing, but it's something that I'm a big advocate for. I wouldn't be sitting here just to do it, if that makes sense. Like, it's something that I actually have a lot of time for and always willing to have a conversation about it any point of the day, because it's just something that's just, it's fueling me at the minute. So, yeah. Yeah,
you seem that way. Like, it's so funny because I remember when you were first going on this journey, like years ago, and we were sitting in the other studio and you were talking about having salads at work and stuff like that. So it's just so cool how every so often it's evolved into like another element. Like, okay, I've been doing this now and now I'm doing this thing. It's just this curious, laid back journey that I think I really respect in terms of how, just how laid back you've been with it, you know, but committed without making it a thing.
Yeah. It's not taken over my life completely, but it's a big part of it now.
Yeah, like
huge
you enjoy
part,
your
huge
life.
Part. Yeah.
And it's evolving.
It's definitely a level of enjoyment. It doesn't feel like you have to be disciplined, but it doesn't feel like a discipline, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
So yeah.
It just feels like a gift that you keep giving yourself.
And we're still a growing culture, I would say, in this country, as opposed to if I was in LA or whatever, where it's like heavy wellness, heavy well-being, heavy fitness, etc.
Yeah.
It's still a growing culture, so it's like you are having to work a little bit harder to find it, if that makes sense. And I kind of enjoy that journey of it as well, because it's not in your face 24/7. Like you have to actually,
it's not just on a plate and pushed on you.
You actually have to find,
which I guess is good, because then you're finding more things for you, like bespoke to you, because you're actually going out and seeking it out.
Yeah, definitely.
I love that. It's definitely inspiring me.
I want
to try.
I want to definitely be around more like-minded people. So I'm like looking into little health
groups
clubs and
stuff.
spas and seeing if that might be my little relief from the world here and there.
Yeah, that's such a good relief to have.
Yes.
So healthy.
But it leads me on to the question. Speaking of relief from the world.
Okay.
So it came off the back of a discussion I saw online, and there was just a question that was posed as I got involved in the commentary. So I'll give you backstory first. So it was about Londoners particularly. And being Londoners, it struck home. And this person was just talking about how, like, traveling around, they realized that London is like broken by this capitalism culture, and that everyone is like, not everyone, but there's just a robotic feel to London at the minute. Now,
like rigid, not lively.
Yeah, it's like the soul's been taken out of a lot of things. And it stretches, I'm going to go off on a tangent quickly. It stretches across a lot of different interests. So, like, initially this person was talking about the romance and empathy.
In what context? Like, what did they say?
I guess in there they just mean, they said the lack of romance, empathy, interest, and the pandemic of skills issues is bad. Significant proportions of certain demographics can't effectively mate. Yeah. Cool. We'll get into that side in a minute. But
yeah, I want to see the comments. Like, what?
For me personally, when somebody's got involved and was talking about the culture, the soul being taken out of things and being very robotic, yeah, it's now I've noticed that narrative in things that I used to enjoy a lot more, like even sports. Everything is so data driven now. Like, it's not just for the love of it.
It's not hearty.
Yeah, when I'm watching TV programs, it's just like, you're doing this for views. There isn't a genuine feel to it, like, anymore. The fact of, like, even if you want to take it to like something as basic as reality TV shows, yeah, the old episodes of like I'm not going to say Love Island, that's a Big Brother. The original episode, like, there might have been people there that was doing it to try and gain fame, but they seemed a bit more genuine about it. Whereas now it's like, when you see these shows, they all just seem manufactured. You can kind of work out what's going to happen. It just all seems a bit robotic,
like produced.
Everything just seems overproduced, like everything. People's TikToks, it's like sometimes the most natural ones are the ones that fly because everyone else is trying to emulate what someone else has done, so it's overproduced.
Yeah,
like,
or even like couple TikToks when they do things that are so obviously trends, and they put it on, you can tell that it's not authentic.
Like, the soul's not like there anymore. Sometimes I want to meet certain people and just feel like the thing that has worked for you, how does that make you feel on a day-to-day basis? Like, are you happy to live in that realm? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, say if we was here doing something that we know would 100% get you eyes on you, but it doesn't align with your morals, or there's no soul attached to it, you're just doing it as a tick box exercise, and that's the thing that works. Does that make you feel good, or is it a case of you might just not have any soul left? That's how it feels to me personally.
I know what you mean, because when I used to work with influencers, and they were influencers in the mum market, so they would do loads of like mum videos and stuff.
Yeah.
And online, there are these really put together, confident mums, share their stories, share their struggles, but obviously they're sharing their struggles after the fact. So they're giving all these tips and put on this pedestal and looked up to. And in real life and behind the scenes, they were so unhappy or anxious or just so insecure and all the, like, you know what I mean? It was just a complete 180 from what you're seeing on screen.
Yeah.
I think that's what really shocked me about, that's kind of what changed my journey with influencers, because I was like, this is so different, like, it's so crazy.
I understand it, because at the end of the day, it is a job, right? You've got to perform to the best of your abilities if you want to excel in that role that you're doing. But I feel like there's still part of you that can maintain you, if that makes sense, like carry a bit of the soul, the element But a lot of it does just seem so robotic. Like, do this to get this, to do this, to do that. Everybody's doing the same 5 steps. It's like somebody's written a blueprint and nobody wants to go against that blueprint. Not saying that you should always go against a blueprint because it's a blueprint for a reason, but add your personal touch to it sometimes.
But then what if you're told that your personal touch isn't the right look or voice or thing or message? Do you know what I mean?
That's the
There's
struggle.
the programming of what succeeds and what doesn't.
100%. That's why I get why we are where we are now. Because to be realistic, it just makes sense. Like, if you're going to try and do something, why not do it the way that works rather than going against what they're saying isn't going to work, if that makes sense. Like, I understand where we are, but it has just taken the soul out of a lot of stuff. Bear in mind, I'm not someone that's sitting here complaining about it. Like, everybody can do what they want to do, but it's just,
I don't know, because even with me, like, I was in this discussion with some people and we were talking about PDA in public, and
what's PDA?
You know what public displays of affection?
Okay, I thought so, because you threw me off when you said in public afterwards. Sorry, go on.
I was like, you know what this means?
It's because you said in public straight after. I was like, what is the PDA stand for? Go on. Sorry, go on.
Super public? No. So, yeah, PDA in public and stuff like that. And everyone was kind of talking about how they hate PDA and this, that, and the other. And I was just like, why? And I was very vocal and I was like, I love PDA. I obviously love it myself. I love seeing it if it's not too crazy. I'm not talking about anything insane, but it's just so nice when you see couples walking around in love and stuff like that. But then I was also thinking, even like not just PDA between couples, but even showing affection between like parents and children. Why don't we do that in public? Like, why is it when we're outside, anything that's loving or hearty or joyful, like, why do we get so angry at people who are laughing too loudly? And everyone does that. Like, why? Why does it aggravate everyone to see people experience joy? You know what? As I'm speaking, I feel like one of those reasons is because reclaiming joy is such a powerful thing, and how you get your power back. I feel like London, financially at least, is such an abusive place to live.
It pains me to even agree with that because I love London too much.
In London, yeah.
I love it too much to badmouth it, and I feel not privileged, but what's the word? Grateful for being in London, growing up in London. So I'll never badmouth London and turn my back on it, but it's just things that you're noticing about it. And it's just,
I'm noticing how TFL have overcharged me every day last week.
That's not even a surprise. But
and they refunded me, sure. But it's just like, you know, it is financially abusive. Like, there's things that are so unnecessarily expensive. I bought a cookie today that was half price and it was like £2 something. And I was like, half price?
It's crazy. It is actually crazy. Like, what
was full price? And, you know, you complain about these things, which are very justified, but you sound cheap. Do you know how crazy that is?
Do you know what it is? It's perspective at the same time, though, because these things sound crazy, but it all comes down to perspective, realistically. I don't know. There's something about London that's just, it's just irking me at the minute, and it's just, yeah, it does. Do you agree with the person that's saying it feels broken, like a broken?
I feel
culture,
like
society?
I mean, it's hard to say I don't agree with them completely, because obviously you see people, and everyone has like a wall around them, including myself. You know, like even with working in a new workplace and stuff like that, although I do put it down to learning so many things at once, I just don't always want to have lunch with my colleagues because I want to just have a moment and breathe and stuff like that, you know. But at the same time, I feel like that is a glimpse, you know. You're seeing people in the most vulnerable part of the day before they're going to work in the mornings or after work. You just don't know what day they've had, what day they're walking into, what's going on. Like that really is a vulnerable moment. So it's a moment where people are gathering themselves. But I wouldn't say London is soulless.
Do you think that's more prevalent now though? Like, have you always felt that way when you see people in the morning?
Always. I remember
Really?
when I first started walking and I was like, this is horrible. I feel like, working. And I was like, this is horrible. I feel like a robot. This isn't normal or natural, you know, to be doing this 5 days a week is crazy. Obviously, I was young. I hadn't worked like that before, but it was so insane to me. I remember being on the train and literally thinking, I feel like a robot. This is wrong. And it is wrong, you know, to be doing that. I think places who aren't offering flexible working at this point are wrong. But I wouldn't say London is soulless.
I don't think it's completely soulless.
Yeah.
That's my point. I don't think it's completely soulless, but I do feel like there's big pockets that used to have so much soul that doesn't anymore. And I don't know if that's just
moved
to where.
Like to events, to poetry nights, to certain things. Like I feel like I've experienced some soul, you know.
So it's more in like niche communities now as opposed to commercially, would you say? Because previously you could go anywhere and you would see that same vibe, that same vibrancy, around the city, like no matter where you went. If it was Shoreditch to West to anywhere, basically, like
I don't know,
there was always some sort of vibrancy that you could see. But now there's times when I'm driving late, it's an empty shell. Like
because it's late.
No, but it's not even that late because I'm not even driving as late as I used to be. But it's like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. It's like, am I living in London certain times? It's just quiet.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know though at the same time, like.
But also, sorry to pause you, in terms of the event space, there's more daytime events now as opposed to night events that I see more of that vibrancy, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. I don't agree though, because I've been to like a few nighttime events, even just recently, like a few weeks ago, where I'd met new people and been around people that I hadn't seen before. And I think, again, it comes down to perspective. Like if you have soul and you're connected to that, you'll find it and it will find you. Like for me, I remember there was one time, even just last year, I went for drinks with my friend and she was ready to go home and I wasn't. And as I was walking down to head to the station, I just started speaking to a group of people and they were so welcoming and friendly, and then just ended up having a part 2 to the night with them.
So say like you see a place that looks like it's got some sort of vibrancy to it, and you're by yourself. Would you enter that place by yourself in the current day?
That's hard to say just because of where I've been mentally in the last few months, but I have done that before and had a good time. You know, I feel like if you follow your own interests and what you're into, which will be niche to each person, then you're literally following your soul, so you'll find more of it. So I don't think it's fair to say that London is completely a soulless place. But would I say it's rigid and stiff and self-conscious? Yeah.
No, I agree. So a lot of what I just said was devil's advocate because in this commentary on this post, I didn't agree with them. But I was taking in elements of what the original point was.
Yeah.
And I can see it in pockets, like I said. Like I'm not blind to it, but at the same time, I'm not gonna badmouth London to say there's no soul here whatsoever. But I do think, like you said, it's shifted. 100% it's not as prominent as it used to be to me personally. I can admit that, but yeah, I think it's broken. Can I ask you a question?
Before you do that though, one thing I will say though is that I think everyone does have soul in London, but I also think that we're all very stressed and suppressed, because moments when it comes out are more likely to be when people are drinking or on something. Very rarely you'll experience it with people who are 100% sober, and I think that does speak for itself.
That's sad though.
It is sad.
It's a sad reality. It's almost like escapism.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel safe in London? Do you feel secure, safe and secure? Double loaded question.
I do around people, but I don't, again, in terms of finances. It's weird because I just never know what random bill is going to be thrown at me or what's going to suddenly happen. Or there's always this feeling just below the surface that the rug's going to be pulled from under me at any point.
Interesting. Be interesting to know if majority of people feel safe and secure in London or not, because I think that plays a big part to it as well.
Yeah.
Why the soul might feel a bit, I wouldn't say broken, fractured.
I think there's so many things going on in London, like in the UK as well, with all these EDL marches and everything. That definitely made me feel weird.
So you see, like with that, it's the weirdest feeling that I've had for a little while.
Same.
Because I didn't feel unsafe, but I felt very prepared. As in, what if I had that very strong what if? Because like the world's crazy. It's been crazy for a little while, but a lot of the times you'll see stuff and it's just like, it's not close to home, if that makes sense. Like, but with this one, I felt because it's happening in surrounding, I'm like, what if some bunch of people just want to actually be brave and start something stupid just for the sake of it, because they're just not even so much that they're angry with these people, they're just angry because now when I look outside, it is just a lot of anger. So I was like, I don't feel unsafe, but I just felt very even on edge. Feels too strong for me, but I was kept my wits about me every time I was leaving. If that makes sense. Yeah,
it does. Like I definitely,
my spidey senses was heightened.
You were ready to jump if you needed to, but no. The feeling I felt was so weird, and I can't describe it, because likewise I didn't necessarily feel on edge or unsafe, because it felt close but not close enough. But at the same time I felt just really sad and exhausted and targeted, and just like really sick of that. And then at one point, I think just my beliefs, I really had to lean into that. And I was like, okay, I trust that nothing's going to happen to me or my loved ones. Because really, what can I do? Like, what can I actually do?
Oh, you as a person, physically.
Yeah, like, what can I do? So I just had to, like, say these things to myself to feel better. Because it was like, well, I literally don't know what I would do if something happened.
What was interesting to me, it seemed like there was a lot more interest in it from the non-targeted people than the targeted, in London anyway. Like London was ready for any type of action, but the actual people that was more speaking was the people that wasn't affected, trying to almost denounce their affiliation with them just by skin tone. Do you know what I mean? And I felt that was very interesting. Some people I do believe was performative, but at the same time it was like, it's not just going to be a straight outcome of them versus us kind of thing. It's like,
I think it was really special and encouraging when there were thousands and thousands of people who were doing the anti-racist march. That actually made me feel really warm, and that was really good, because prior to that I was like, wow, it really is a lot more racist than I thought, you know, the UK or whatever. And then people in interviews would keep saying, well, it's not they don't represent us, like they're not the largest amount of us in the UK. And I wasn't really believing that until I saw all the people gathered who were against the EDL, and that really kind of reinstilled some faith in me. But the whole thing was quite exhausting, you know, like even I feel like everyone did their best, but how do you navigate something like that? Like, I do think certain people, I wouldn't necessarily say performative, but I would say overcompensating. And I was like, you don't have to, like, it's more exhausting for me to be talking about this as a new person in my office.
Yes.
Just don't talk about
Don't
it.
talk about it to
Just
me
don't
anyway.
talk about it to me. Like, you don't need to talk about it to me. It's making me feel worse because I was actually having a good day. It did make me feel worse. And then I think another thing that bothered me was just the way that it was reported. You know, it's just very different from how other things have been reported. So it's also like, well, here's the undercurrent of racism, you know, and the propaganda and the brainwashing and the words that are so particular. And yeah, I think even like workplaces offering, you know, and messaging to say, if you want to work from home. And it's like, well, just let everyone work from home for a couple of days. Make it not optional.
Yeah.
Because now, as a person of color, not only do I feel like I can't, even though you've offered that I can, it just feels weird to accept that offer. And then when there's other people of color in your office who are going into work, you don't want to be the only person who didn't. Like, it's just such a weird position to be put in. I felt very highlighted.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Interesting, man. But thankfully, it didn't play out the way that it was reported that it would.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting times nonetheless.
Yeah, very.
Went off on a tangent there. What?
We really did. You said, well, let's go off on a tangent, and we were like, sure. Let's do what we do best. And take the scenic route, for real.
I don't even remember how we got there. Oh, I asked you if you felt safe and secure. But that'll be a question that I might put out there just to see how people feel in London, because there's so much to be aware of.
Yeah, and I guess it's like, I don't know how this is going to come off or how it's going to sound or if it's irresponsible. It's not like I'm saying be blind to everything, but I'm not up for a debate every day. I'm just not up for it. Like, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about it from any side. You don't want to hear about the injustices every day. Sometimes I just want an iced coffee and to do my spreadsheet.
No, I get it.
In
peace. Get it. There's a time and place for everything as well.
Exactly. I think that's what's been exhausting, like all the convos that have been taking place.
Yeah. Do you know what the weirdest thing about that is, before we move on, is you'll have these conversations with new people, and now you're having to almost watch what you say so it doesn't offend them, when realistically we don't need to be talking about this at all.
At all. Like, to be honest, you're offending me
Right.
by, like,
I'm the one that should be not offended by this conversation, but like, if I'm the person that's being impacted by what's happening, how can now I have to be mindful of my words in case it gets misconstrued?
Exactly.
That's crazy.
That's how I've been feeling. I'm like, oh my God, it's my second week of working here, and my one rule is don't talk about politics at work. And now we're talking about this. This is crazy.
Yeah.
It was just too much. And even to like it was weird because my colleagues were all talking about it, but then making eye contact with me, and it was almost like, you know, we're reassuring you, this is so wrong, blah, blah, blah. Just yawn.
I'm fighting it. David is going to highlight it.
No, because I was like, if you fight it for a second longer, you'll explode. But yeah, it was just like annoying to know how to navigate that conversation, because I really did not want to say too much, not even to be super careful, because I really just did not want to say too much, you know. To be honest, I wanted to work from home, and I was annoyed that I didn't take up their offer. And then to like be in the conversation, to be like, yeah, totally, as your responses, and then to just have to leave the room because it actually did just feel too overwhelming. It's like every other time you want to do the British thing and just not mention anything, but now you want to, you know.
That's it. I think people need to be a bit more considerate of the people that actually have to walk this life every single day, not just when it's a
and I think
topic.
People who have to walk this life maybe need to be, and I'm speaking about myself here, just be more vocal with the boundary. Like, actually, you know what? This conversation is upsetting for me. I'd rather not.
Yeah.
Because who am I trying to appease? Like, why do I have to listen to how non-racist you are? I'm sure
100%.
It's all very true, and I love that
100%.
you're thinking of me in this way to reassure me. Like, that is considerate. But you only think that's considerate because I haven't said what that feels like.
Yeah. Yeah, nah, sometimes you just got to let it be known.
Yeah, let it be known, you know?
I do that myself, to be honest.
Yeah.
Shut it down sometimes because...
How do you do that?
Depends on who it is, first of all, but sometimes I don't know. I might be a bit sarcastic. But someone was talking about something one time. I can't remember what it was. And I was just like, yeah, imagine that. Like, I can't remember what it was, but it was like, let's just say it was being, I won't call it police harassment, but like something police related, whether it's stop and search or whatever. They're like, oh, imagine being stopped and searched and this, that, the other. And I'm just like, yeah, imagine that. And it kind of just shut down.
Put someone in reality.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, cool. Let's move on from this conversation.
Yeah.
But there's other times where I'm just like, do you know what? I can't even say too much right now because... And then they just leave it after that. Because once I've said that, what are you going to do? Probe me for more?
Yeah.
I've just told you, I can't even say too much.
But what about when people are talking about it so much around you?
I zone out.
Yeah.
Because don't talk about something. If you're going to talk about something and it impacts me and you ain't calling my name, then I'm not part of your conversation. Do you know what I mean? Don't do it to try and entice me into your conversation because you want... I was going to say... You want the black opinion? Like, don't do that. Don't do that because I won't bite. Like, unless you're my friends. But even my friends would just be having a conversation. You won't like talk around me and hope that I jump in. You'll call my name.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to call my name into your conversation, then that means you're just fishing. Like you're just, I don't know the word.
I know exactly what you mean.
Like be bold. If you want to talk about this with me, then talk about it with me.
Someone did that to me once and it was my manager who was talking along with people.
Yeah.
And first I was fully trying to ignore it because I was like, I'm just not getting involved in this. And then she was like, what do you think, Kam?
But I prefer that though. I'll be honest. I prefer that. Call my name. Like try and, if you want to talk about this, let's talk about this. But don't talk about it around me, hoping that I'm going to, like I said, be enticed and want to.
Yeah.
No.
I like that approach.
Let's not do that.
Bold. That's what I'm learning. I need to be bolder in a subtle way.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to get up and walk away.
That's what I did.
Sometimes you got to.
Yeah. I was like, I'm just going to go look at memes because this is too much.
Just, I don't want to have to be here for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I digress.
Yeah. Finally, me too. The tangent is done.
Yeah, no, definitely.
On to today's wonderful... That was a long tangent.
Yeah, it's the reality of being a Londoner right now, though, I guess. All right, so you mentioned this pedal store a few times when you was talking just then.
Yeah.
And that is one of our things that we wanted to speak on today. So go ahead.
No, why about you go ahead? How about that?
On to the topic of the day. So yeah, it was just about what? Enlighten me a bit more on the angle you was looking at.
Well, it was on the back of our conversation about, because what did you say? You said something about...
Dimming your talents.
Yeah, dimming your talents, downplaying your talents, that kind of thing. And just letting your work speak for yourself. And I respect a silent confidence because I think that is what you should do, like let your work speak for yourself. But then I also thought it's so interesting how people just soak that up, you know, in movies and everything. Everyone loves the person who you just, even in social media where you just didn't expect someone to do something and then they do it. Like we're such fans of the underdog. But if someone comes in bold and big with what they're doing, you know, really believing in themselves, they're arrogant or they're this, or they need to be more, have more humility or taken down a peg. Why is that?
Do you think that's still the case in this generation, this day and age?
Yeah, definitely. I feel it myself. Like I am constantly feeling like I need to dim my light, especially amongst women, because we're put on a much harder chopping board than men in terms of, I'm not saying women have it worse, blah, 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 but we are. Like the way that the standard that women are held to is so impossibly high. It is so easy to offend and be offended by your female friends when you are a woman than it is by men.
Why is that though? Because if they're both saying the same thing, why is it more so a woman's words would affect you more?
I think there's just so many things and ideas. And look, we have grown up with women competing with each other, you know? It was Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, but it was Nicki versus Cardi B. And that's just the earliest example, you know? It goes way back and way back and way back. It was before Nicki and Cardi, it was Nicki and Lil' Kim. Like, women are so constantly pitted against each other. In every movie, there's always a mean woman, then a really nice woman, and the really nice woman who is loved is the girl next door, and she wears glasses and she's not bold, and do you know what I mean? Like,
do you think you lot do it to yourself sometimes?
Of course we do. We do it to ourselves. We do it to each other. Men do it to us too. Media does it to us. Women are the most scrutinized humans on earth. If you're a mother who goes out, you're scrutinized. If you're a mother who's indoors and just looks after the kids, you're wimpy because you haven't got a job. If you're a mother who does all three, you're a selfish woman. You just need to be a man and you're fine. If you've held your baby, you're good. You're like, wow, put him in People magazine. He's the sexiest man of the year.
I think that's harsh. But,
I think it's true though. Like, it's an undisputed. Look at what's his name? What is his name? Damn, I am so blank. And maybe that's a sign. But the guy who plays Deadpool.
Ryan Reynolds?
I think it is Ryan Reynolds, yeah. Look at how much he is just so supremely loved because he's just so bold and says it how it is and blah, blah, blah. And he loves his wife and he loves his daughters and he's just so celebrated for that. Is any woman celebrated for that?
Of course. Maybe not to the same extent because it's like a bit more of the norm. No, the norm's not the right word. No,
it's not.
I don't know.
When you're walking through the world as a woman around other women, and I'm not the only woman who feels this way. Like, I was speaking to this like kind of therapist practitioner person about these issues because I was like, when you meet someone, you're constantly worried, like, oh, are they going to think I'm too much? Are they going to think I'm too weak? Are they going to think I'm judging them? Are they judging me? If they introduce me to their boyfriend, I don't want to do anything to make them think I want him or I'm a home wrecker or blah, blah, blah. Do you know what I mean? It's just weird stuff constantly. And I'm not the only person who feels that way. It's such a common thing. And think about the thing about being a girl's girl. Being a girl's girl means that if your friend goes to the toilet, you have to go with her. And if you don't want to, you're not a girl's girl.
Is that for safety though? That he's not good?
Yeah, possibly. But also, it might not be. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, if you don't mind read me in exactly the way I need you to, then you're wrong for that.
So there's two things, yeah. For me, personally, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like part of it comes down to just the fact that a lot of women know that they live life to be chosen, if that makes sense. Like, a lot of what they do is to be chosen. Yeah. Second part is, I think when I say do women do it to themselves, I hear this line a lot where a woman will go through something with another person and then be like, but you're a woman, you should know.
Exactly.
And I think that's a problem.
That is a problem.
Because...
how are you supposed to know?
Right. And I don't think men look at each other and be like, oh, you're a man, you should know.
Right.
Like, we look at each other just as men. Like, if we've gone through the same path, maybe you should know better. But we understand that we grow different.
Exactly.
Whereas women, sometimes it's like, how could you do this? I'm a woman. You're a woman. Like,
but you know how many times men have said that to me as well? Like if I've said something and they're like, oh, well, you should know how to do that. Not just cooking. I'm talking about just general things. But they're like, oh, you should know how to do that. You're a woman.
But that's gender stereotypes more so than...
No, it's just like little things. Like, oh, you should know how to flirt to get what you want. You're a woman. And I'm like, well, you fucking do it then. Like, what do you mean?
But it doesn't work the same way for men, though.
It does if you're charming.
We do, like, obviously, as a man, you know...
A man with charm will get away with so
100%.
much.
100%.
Way 10 times more than a woman would. Because a woman will only get away with that stuff with men. She won't get away with it with other women. Whereas men are great with men, women, old people, young people. They'll get away with a lot more. I think it's just that women are scrutinized so much. Like you never hear about, well, actually you do sometimes, but you often hear about how mothers compete with their daughters, you know, all the time.
I think, again, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's because women haven't, in this current iteration of life, haven't secured their place in society, like mentally or physically. And I think that's all the problem is. Until you lot know, individually, not as a group, until you individually know what you want to be in this society, it will always be this case.
I think... No, I think that's the problem. I think we all want to be the woman who does it all. I'm saying we start a movement to be the woman who does nothing and is fine with it.
What do you mean by nothing?
Whatever she wants, she can do nothing all day. She can marry no one. She can have no job or she can have a job. She can do nothing and still be valuable. And I think that's what the problem is. It's like, find your place in society, know what you're doing, this, that, and the other, and then you'll feel fine. There's always this like thing that you have to do before you feel fine or valued or worthy. I don't need to find my place in society. Do you know how hard that is to do? Society changes every 5 years.
That's why I said on the individual basis, not on the grand scheme.
But what if what I want changes in like 3-5 years?
Then you just gotta be happy.
What if I'm in a different society?
It's fine. It's just that you have to be happy with the decisions you made. Like, if you're gonna go down this path, you gotta be willing to accept everything that comes with it and not expecting the same outcome as somebody that walks a different path, if that makes sense. Like, if you're seeing this woman going down this pathway of getting, I don't know, like every woman wants different things, but let's just say the old school way of thinking, family, husband, loyal man, etc., 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 the house, the kids, etc. But you're living a lifestyle that doesn't attribute to that, but you're still wanting it. You have to be realistic and just be accepting.
I don't think that's fair.
I think it is fair because there's going to be people that will still provide that lifestyle for you, but you can't be looking for that lifestyle from people that are not looking to give that lifestyle to someone living a certain way, if that makes sense.
I don't think you can want those things and then get with a man who wants a woman to stay at home and cook and this, that, and the other. But I don't think that if you're walking, unless this isn't what you mean, I don't think if you're walking a different kind of path, you still can't expect to get married and have a family. You can,
but not from the same people that would give that lifestyle to somebody living a different lifestyle to yourself, if that makes sense. Like, some people might want a working woman and that's who they want to provide that lifestyle to, where there's going to be other men that don't want a working woman and that's the guy that will give you that lifestyle, if that makes sense. But I feel like the problem is sometimes people are competing or looking at the same type of person instead of looking at their type of person, and I think that's where the problem lies, me personally.
I guess I feel like that's a problem. I don't think that's the problem.
No, it's not the ultimate problem.
Yeah, it's not the ultimate problem. But I think that whole phrasing is an issue.
Okay.
In terms of like...
Tell me why.
Just in terms of...
Tell me why. Let's do this.
And just remember, at the start of the episode, you called me your friend. So... let's just stay in that realm, that energy, you know. I'm your friend Cam, just saying.
No, I'm interested to hear this.
But that's the thing, like the problem isn't that women are struggling to get what they want and they're looking in the wrong place to get what they want to get, you know. Because even with that, it's like in that example and in that question, you're blaming women. You know what I mean? Like,
Like,
oh, you're looking for the wrong thing from the wrong guy. It's
Yeah.
still your fault. This is an example of the level of scrutiny that's placed on women.
but yeah, sorry to
Because
pause you right there.
I'm not going to pause because that's
I just want to
because
say
that's
one
the
thing.
problem.
What I said doesn't apply just to women. On the flip side, it's the same. But carry on.
Okay, on the flip side, it's the same, but you never really quite hear it like that. Because even if you go on social media, this, that, and the other, all the videos are like, from men and women alike, this is how you keep a man. This is what you do. This is how a man works. Blah, 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 blah. The issue isn't that women are looking for the wrong way to get what they want. The issue is that we are pitted against each other in constantly. Because when you're hearing those videos, or even in the example you just said, it's like, well, there's a certain type of woman who gets all those things, and there's a certain type of woman who doesn't. So you're either on the right side or the wrong side. That's not what you said, but that's the message that is constantly put forward.
That message is wrong because it's half true, but it's not. It doesn't apply to everyone. It's like what you want is just might not be from the people that you're looking at. That's all. That's all my message is. Like, understand what actually suits you rather than what appears to be the right way.
I guess so, but it's also like my point isn't how are you getting from A to B successfully, and where's the cross path in that? Like, what is someone not doing correctly to get there? My point is you could do anything the way that you want to do it, and you can be
100%.
happy with it, and someone on either side, a man or a woman, will always tell you that what you're doing is wrong.
But that's because it's the wrong person telling you that.
But
There is a right person for you.
It's constant. Like,
Because 9 times out of 10 in life, relationships, whatever, courting, you're not always gonna meet the person that's for you. Like, it's just life.
yeah,
right?
it's a process, but it's like,
It only takes one.
I guess so, but even that is such an interesting thing, you know, the whole idea of courting, because it's like, it's not about chasing a guy or this, that, and the other, but it's like there's so many ways that as a woman you're withheld from doing what you want to do, you know, and everything is basically on the guy's side, you know, like, don't message him too much unless he's messaging you too much, and then you can respond, and then if he pulls away, then you pull away, and if, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then through all of those things, you're just constantly worrying about, like, why is he behaving this way? Does he not like me anymore? Am I not good enough? Has he got someone else? Instead of just thinking, this isn't for me and I don't want it. And the thing is, when you were raised like that, and your parents were raised like that, and your grandmother was raised like that, and her great grandmother was raised like that, I'm not going to erase that in one day. That is in my DNA, living in me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I grew up in a completely different era from my mum. My mum grew up in an era where it's like, you get to meet, you know, my family spoke to a man's family. We're going to put you guys together and then see if you get along, and you have some choice. You can say no, and then you get married, and it's meant to last forever.
Yeah.
If the man wants you, if you're lucky enough for that to happen. And if it's getting too old, there's something wrong with the woman. I had a guy who was dating me say that, like, oh, you know, if a woman isn't married by this time, like, surely there's something wrong with her. But a man can be fighting his demons until he's 40 years old and get with a 23-year-old, and he's good.
I get that. I do get that. But I don't think that's necessarily correct, though.
It's not correct.
I get it, though.
But he wouldn't be scrutinized, or he would be by women, but not in the same way a woman would be.
Because women's business is more interesting in the nicest way possible. Because men, like straight single men, are interested in women. Women are interested in the business of women. So it's like you've got more people. I don't care what my friend's doing necessarily in terms of like dating or in his relationship. As long as he's cool and he's happy and everything appears swimmingly, I'm not gonna like deep dive into the ins and outs of it. Whereas Yeah, it's just different. It's just different. I feel like women's business is just more interesting, just worldwide. Just gossip is more.
It is gossip. It is gossip. I so often feel like I'm just gossiping about my own life, and it's exhausting. And I think I'm feeling so aggravated about it today because it's been on my mind, especially working in a new office surrounded by women who are so lovely and so nice and welcoming and warm and friendly, just like really, really beautiful, amazing women.
Yeah.
And I feel so unsafe.
Why though?
Because you just walk into these environments and you don't know how people are receiving you. You don't know if you're too confident and you say this, people are going to think, oh, she's a bit up herself, or she's doing too much for a new person. Or if you're not doing enough, you're a wallflower and they think you're boring and this, that, and the other. And the thing is, I'm not the only woman who feels this way.
I can imagine so, but it's just so interesting to me because
we are so, like, you have to understand, everyone's criticized. Everyone's criticized. But in the 90s, you had all these very normal looking women with headlines on magazines called Jumbo, or she doesn't fit in her swimsuit, or this, that, and the other, or blah, blah, blah. Like, we are so hyper vigilant on being nitpicked in the same way that we have seen magazines and the media and other people nitpick on each other. Even hearing our own cousins and mothers and aunts talk about our family members in that way, you know, and then warning us, don't be like your cousins who do this, but then at the same time telling you off like, oh, your cousins can do this, and you can't even do that. Like constant comparison and this and that. And meanwhile, they are so loving to their sons.
it's just different.
Why are boy mums so happy? Like,
I just don't think there's a comparison that can be made between the boys and the girls because, like I said, there's more attention on girls, right, from everybody.
Yeah.
But what I do think is that
it's exhausting. I feel exhausted by it.
You lot sometimes don't want to take that, not accountability, that's the wrong word, but
the self-awareness.
Yeah, in the situation.
I agree. Literally, I know someone who's always like, oh, working with women is so hard. Oh, yeah, because women are just like that. And it's like, you don't have the capacity in you to think that you might have women issues or that you think women aren't safe because you grew up with a mother who was not safe and a bully to you, you know? There isn't a self-awareness. And also, every woman holds it like some deep, dark secret that they have some women issues instead of thinking, of course I do.
Yeah.
Look where I grew up. Of course I do.
No, it's strange. Like, I've been around two, how can I call them? Not two groups of friends. Two girls that are friends, but both of them don't know when they speak to, like, they don't know if each other like each other. That's crazy to me because it's like, how does that even work? But when you're around each other, it's all...
Because you just never know
that's crazy.
What you've done to offend someone and if they're going to talk about it with someone else. And it comes from betrayals from high school or primary school even, you know? Like I remember in high school, I had two best friends and the three of us were a group and we loved each other and blah, blah, blah. And me and one friend was so close, like just so much closer than with the other one. So we used to bitch about her. Whatever. It was a shock to my system when I found out that them two were bitching about me. My naive, loyal mind was so confused. And I use the word loyal so loosely because I thought I was so loyal, but I was talking about that friend.
It's very surface level, yeah, but was any of it in relation to males?
That's the thing. It's so cutting. It doesn't have to just be related to guys. It's related to everything. Like women can be so mean.
Because like you see the competition for like if a couple of friends like the same person, there's a competition level that I've seen with women that just doesn't exist amongst like male friendships. It's just impossible. Like whoever gets there, it's cool. There might be some people that hold a bit of feeling about it, like, oh, I really liked her, but it's cool. But I've seen it, So for instance, let's just take it back all the way to school, like you just mentioned. let's say there's a group of boys in school, and there's like a girl that everybody would class as the hottest girl in school. Like every guy would want her, yeah. But a few of the guys won't mind if they don't get her, as long as they get somebody else.
Yeah.
It might not be the hottest, it might be a few rungs down, not ranking like that, but you know what I mean?
I just totally know what you mean.
Whereas girls, I noticed, would compete with each other like proper fight to
It would
get
be a
that number
vendetta
one.
for life.
I don't understand
For
it.
life.
I don't
Crazy.
get it. I don't get.
Because you know what it is? It's like, one,
It's the fact of being chosen. I believe it comes
it's
back
the
to
fact of being chosen. It's like when you're not, and I can't speak for every woman here. And also just to say, I have really beautiful female friendships today, which are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's not always been that way. And it's not always easy still. But when your own insecurities get in the way. But when someone else is chosen, you just think, I don't know, you just feel like you failed as a woman. Do you know what I mean? As a girl. Like, it's not like, oh, they just get along better or he likes her. Or, but it's like, there's something wrong with me. Because if he hasn't chosen me, then everything that I've seen or heard about all these things about women, you know, in movies even, like the Bridget Joneses and this, that, and the other, like it must have been that I was too loud, or I was too quiet, or I was too fat, or I was too skinny, or I was too boring, or I wasn't whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like it happened to me the other day. I was on a date with someone. I was going to tell you this off air, and I probably still will, but we're here now. But the parts I'll share is
Just be careful with what you're doing. That's all I'm going to say.
No, it's fine. It's a good example. Like
Okay.
the parts I'll share is I went on a third date with someone and I was really excited, but I was so nervous. And when I was on the date, like, you know, you're so nervous. You're just 100% not yourself. And I was dressed like really nicely and blah, blah, blah. But then, you know, like the whole time you're like, oh my God, am I overdressed or this, that, and the other? And then when you're speaking and your voice isn't the same, or even when you're stuttering over your words and you're just being so not yourself and so lame. It was so embarrassing. And I was just like, okay. I was not a great date. Like I was really anxious and nervous and shy, and just because obviously at this point I was feeling him a little more. And then when I came home, and I was just like, what was that? And then even though our last 2 dates were really fun and really great, and when he started messaging me less, it was like a tirade of abuse on myself. Like, oh, it's because you said this or you did that or you blah, blah, blah. And then it's also like, oh, you should have done this beforehand, or you should have behaved like that, or this isn't what Beyonce would do. Do you know what I mean? Like she'd be confident. Like it's when you're not chosen.
Yeah.
It's not just like, oh, okay, this was this. I'll just meet someone new. When you're constantly being told about lack and you'll be left on the shelf and blah, blah, blah. You can't afford to think optimistically. You have to analyze yourself to see what you've done wrong so this doesn't happen again.
I get that.
Yeah, it's exhausting. And then this week I had a revolutionary moment. I was like, you know what? I need someone thick-skinned who isn't going to be put off by weird behavior sometimes, because I am worth seeing through the nervousness with me.
You don't even know if that was the actual reason.
I know.
Do you
I know that.
do you think, yeah, that women put other women on a pedestal more so than anything, and that's like the root, not the root of all the problems, but that is a big part of it?
I think other women, it's so interesting because there is a shift, you know. The society between women has become a lot more collaborative and beautiful. Like even Cardi B doing all these collabs with these up and coming rappers like Glorilla and everything, and Megan, it's just so beautiful to see. So, and even like the Spice Girls years ago, there's like this but even then they were all pitted against each other, and then Ginger Spice left, and anyway, whatever. But
But you don't
I
have
think
to. You don't have to. Anyway, go on. You don't have to listen to that. You can just ignore it and just carry on.
yeah, but how when it's
Easily.
everywhere?
Easily.
I don't know. I feel like you'd say that a lot differently if you're a woman.
Maybe.
If you grew up with it, like that's programming, that's brainwashing
I think that's
in your head.
Yeah.
Like you have to make an active effort to not listen to it. Do you know what I mean? Like I said, I wasn't the first person. My mum wasn't the first person. It goes back. So it's not easy. But what I will say is I do feel like women put other women on a pedestal, but I feel like, as harsh as it sounds, I don't know if certain women are put on their pedestal in their era or their lifetime, you know? I feel like certain women push through the mold, but they have this protective barrier around them. Like Beyonce, for example, is on a huge pedestal, which is amazing and she deserves it, but she's also never on social media and doesn't interact with anyone. Rihanna is put on a huge pedestal, but she had to really earn her way up to that too. It's kind of like, yeah, some women are put on a pedestal.
So you see, like, when a woman is put on a pedestal, yeah, what does that entail for you? Because I think that answer is very different between women and men.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like the qualities that you look for and the qualities that you aren't triggered by. Because another thing I'll say is that women who would and should be put on a pedestal are then ripped down and criticized because they make you feel insecure. So either you're put on a pedestal and loved, or either you're resented.
One of the two.
Yeah, and I feel like the first step to moving forward for me is getting over the trauma of feeling like women aren't a safe space. You can't just jump from one to the other. I think it takes a lot to admit that. And even if it does something for me, but a lot for, you know, the women I'm mentoring in the future, or who's my new hire at work. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not doing subconscious weird things and competing with her, and she feels safe with me, and that we can, or even with my manager, you know, and that we can get along and there's not a weird thing and blah, blah, blah. Or my daughters, like that's, yeah.
The competition element is the one that I'm perplexed by, honestly, if I'm honest, because sometimes you're competing with people that you got no business competing with. But there's no need to compete with this person.
I think it's because you're compared to women so frequently, and there's like this idea of what a woman should be.
But who do you think is comparing women?
Oh, everyone. I grew up with cousins who were all girls.
So
on
it's
my
women.
dad's
It's
side.
women comparing them.
Yeah.
It's women. This is my point. It's the women.
But it's also men.
No.
It's also, yeah, it is.
No.
Yes, it is. You can't say no when men have literally compared me to other women.
In what sense, though?
In so many senses. Even when they're comparing me favorably, like, oh, you're so good, you don't do this, that's pitting me against a woman. That's subconsciously letting me know what does and doesn't run to be chosen and attractive.
So
And then I'm not chosen anyway. So it's so...
This is my point. This is why I said no, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what.
Everyone compares women. Everyone.
You might compare,
You're
like,
always going to
traits.
compare... But it's still a comparison.
I know it's a comparison, but it's not like to the extent where it's pitting two women against each other. Like, it's just weird. I don't know how to explain it, but the comparison that I see that women have, because you lot will compare each other to each other over the smallest thing to the largest thing, whereas a man might compare you to another woman, but it'll be more of a comparison of what will affect or impact me more.
I think that's specific to you. I think men naturally compare women as well. They haven't been blind to the society that we've grown up in. I think it's naive to think that like men also haven't been brainwashed.
Yeah. It's across the board, but it's not. I don't think it's to the extent of like how it's perceived. Honestly, I don't think it's to the extent.
What do you mean by that?
Because in the nicest way possible, more times than not, you know what you like, right? So I'm not going to waste my time comparing something that I don't like to something that I do like. So
That's
if you
for
are
you though.
no, just in
That's
general, not gonna. I can't speak for everybody, of course, but just in general, like you're gonna compare two things that you like maybe to see what you like more, but you won't compare something that you don't like to something you do like. It's just not. It's not a comparison.
It's not, but I do think that's a specific approach with you and people who are like you, because I have spoken to many men and it is a huge red flag for me when I do, when they're like, oh yeah, I don't like a woman who does this, but you do that, or I don't blah, blah, blah.
That's just, I hear you. I believe you. I genuinely believe you.
Or they go on and on about what one woman did and this, that, and the other.
That's just stupid. Like, I like the fact that you said me and people like me, because I know that not everybody is the same.
Yeah, not everybody is the same.
But that type of person just doesn't make sense to me.
No, they have issues with women because their mother raised them, and their mother has issues with women because most women have issues with women. And I think we all need to admit it is really hard being a girl's girl, and I'm over it. I don't think I am a girl's girl, but I'm not an anti-women person either, you know? I desperately want to have like an easier time connecting, and most times I do. I think it's just like my connection with myself when I'm connecting to women that's really difficult. Like on the outside everything's fine and everything's good. I just hate when all the arrows in myself turn towards me and I'm like, oh, was that weird, or did that offend her, or blah blah blah. That part is exhausting.
I get it. I get it. It's an interesting outlook. Yeah. Because, as I said, I just don't get it in that sense. But, yeah.
I didn't realize I had that on my chest so deeply. But you know what? It's fine. Sometimes it really does just get like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. It's like, I don't think there's ever going to be change. That's why it's just so interesting to me.
I don't think there'll ever be change in media in terms of how people report things or blah, blah, blah. But I think there's change when more women move differently from it, you know? Like,
I think the moment women start to recognize and really accept the fact that another woman is not your competition to that extent, then that's the only way it's going to have any type of change.
I think women are so amazing at getting to the heart of the matter in a really comforting and emotional way that is so needed and necessary. And I think the more we're just so vulnerable with each other like that, like, yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm just offending you, and we stop looking at each other with such a harsh lens. Yeah. And with more of the leniency that we look at men, you know, the way that boys will be boys. Let women just be women. Like, yeah, we're going to say something offended. We don't need to be perfect. The minute we stop being so hypervigilant on ourselves and on others and start sharing that vulnerability and bringing more of that energy when you're out and you see a bunch of women in the toilets and you become friends to day-to-day living, you know, I think that will make a difference. I think we're so like guarded in terms of thinking about what someone is looking for you in a fault.
Possibly.
And yeah, I think being more vulnerable about that would be a good thing.
Possibly. Obviously, I'm talking from the outside.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a woman, never will be. So it's a bit different. It's a bit different. Like, my outlook on it is just from the outside looking in and growing up around women. But I think women are amazing. I like women's company, just conversations, outlooks, and I just think sometimes, like, I'll never tell a woman what to do, like I said, because I'm not a woman. But I do think sometimes you make it harder for yourselves because you're just looking at the wrong things, like comparing yourself to the wrong things.
You know, it's funny you said that about I'll never tell a woman what to do, because I was just thinking that in my head as well, that I think we're so helpful and we think we have all the answers and we judge each other in subtle ways by giving all this strong sound advice, you know, on like, no, don't do this, blah, blah, blah. You got to do it this way. And I feel like if we just, I don't know, I don't think I'd necessarily be like that with my guy friends, you know, and tell them what to do and then judge them if they did things differently. And I don't think guys are necessarily like that with each other or with women either. I think that is a problem. Like there's a difference between advice and then judging someone and telling someone what to do. Like I was talking to this girl who stopped speaking to the guy that she was speaking to, but then they've started hanging out again and blah blah blah, and it's just a nice vibe and they're enjoying each other's company and going out for dinner. And she was saying how all her friends are like, wake up, blah blah blah, don't be so stupid, he's just using you. And I'm like, it's okay. Like, it's okay if you haven't done anything that you feel like you didn't want to do or that's compromised you, or if you don't feel that way, it's okay to, like, you know, go with something that you want. And it's okay to get hurt sometimes to see how something plays out. Like sometimes you just had to know that way. It's okay. Like I feel like part of why it can be difficult is because women make each other feel so dumb for doing certain things. And just friends in general can make you feel that way, but that's not true.
Sure. Yeah, interesting one. I mean, again, like I said, I'll never have the answers because I'm not a woman. But just from a man's point of view, it's just always interested me why it's like that, even amongst friendship groups.
Yeah, it is very interesting. And it will be so, like, I really hope that this conversation and vulnerability on my end just really encourages people to, women especially, to share their experiences. And if they feel this way, and if they don't feel this way, to share that love, because I don't want to feel this way anymore either.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. All right, cool. Oh, I think that's a good place to wrap that conversation up on.
Me too. Shouldn't even talk about the underdog. Just go into my women issues.
No, it's all good. Thank you for that. The vulnerability definitely helps with the understanding, because I'm not privy to the inside knowledge. I'm just from the outside looking in. But any conversation that I have with women, I always like consider how their mind's working in this moment, because it's just interesting, so interesting. And the dynamics between a man and a woman is always going to be, I'm not going to say one-sided, but there's always going to be some level of what's the word I'm thinking? Like, until you establish that friendship level, there's always going to be that question of how genuine is this woman being to me right now? Like, or is she trying to hide certain feelings? Is she trying, do you know what I mean? Until you establish that friendship level, at least anyway. So yes, it's interesting to speak to someone that you do have that friendship level with, to actually understand that there's no hidden agendas behind this conversation, for example. But
no, it's true. It's true. I hear you.
Yeah. But yeah, on that note, thank you. It's been another great episode.
Thank you, my dear friend.
Full circle.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here, do you have any words of advice this week?
My word of advice is to ask yourself if you have women issues. I think it's an important first step, if that's the path you're on and you need the first step. Because there's just one thing that was so clear to me, is there's so much shame around that, to admit that you have some issues around that. And then to speak to the practitioner, for me to ask her, like, what do you make of this? And she was like, honestly, you'll be surprised at how many women talk about this and how they all whisper it like it's some horrible thing that only they are going through. So I think we need to, bridge that gap.
Sound. Makes sense.
You?
Might sound cliche. But you are your own ultimate competition.
Yeah.
Competition exists elsewhere, but you're the ultimate. is
Compete
yourself.
with yourself.
Ultimately. Sometimes you do have to compete with other people. But ultimately, as long as you win the battle with yourself,
Yeah.
you'll be all right.
And try out being the woman who does nothing instead of the woman who does it all. Just do whatever you want with no applause, no nothing, just nothing. That's what I'm doing. It's my word of advice. You can't take it away from me. It's what I advise.
I didn't say nothing.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, yeah, thank you once again for listening, watching, however you take in the Alphawaves podcast. We appreciate it.
We really do.
Follow us on social media, Instagram and TikTok. Interact, message us, let us know any topics you want to discuss, any questions you have for us. We'll be here.
We sure will.
And until next time.
Until then.